Hi, I'm Jilly G. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you my gluten-free sour cream chocolate cake with chocolate buttercream frosting. And I've got everything ready. The first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 350, and I've already got my cake pans all ready. If you watched my carrot cake video, you'll recognize my same 3 pans that don't match, but they're all 8-inch. And the equivalent is very similar to that recipe, is 3 8-inch, 2 9-inch, or about 26 or so cupcakes, or 9 by 13. But we're doing 3 8-inch today. And these pans I have just greased with butter and lined with parchment. No flour is needed, just the butter and the parchment paper. So the first thing we're going to do is mix our dry ingredients together. And in here I have 2 cups of my gluten-free flour, already room temperature, as everything else is room temperature. And I have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, all in here, and just mix this together. So set that aside. In this bowl, I have a 1/2 cup of butter. So in this bowl, I have 3 ounces of unsweetened chocolate cut up. I'm gonna melt this in the microwave till it's all melted. And you want to be careful when you're melting chocolate in the microwave so it doesn't seize up on you. And what you want to do is melt it till it's almost all the way melted, and then it will continue melting in the bowl. And depending on how big of pieces your chocolate is in, mine are in kind of biggish chunks, so it might take a few minutes. And I think mine can go just a few more minutes in the microwave. And there's still a few little small chunks in there, but that will continue melting. And you can see how soft my butter is. So just mix your butter just a little bit. And we're gonna add in the chocolate with our butter. And just mix this till it's really combined. And it really doesn't take very much. And while we're mixing all of this together, I have a little saucepan here with 1 cup of water, and I've got it on low. We want it to come to a boil to pour in at the very end. And I don't know if you've ever made a cake where you add a cup of boiling water, but it works really well. So to our chocolate and butter, I have just over 1 cup of honey and 1 teaspoon of molasses. This recipe calls for brown sugar, and that's what I'm adding the molasses in for, is to kind of give it that flavor. But as always, I'll give you the equivalents to sugar. And just mix this around. It's really hard to even see that there's the honey in there. It's all kind of the same color. And next up is I have 4 eggs, and we're going to start mixing them in 1 at a time. So just go 1. And when that first egg is all mixed in, add in your second egg. Egg number 3. And our last egg. Scrape down your bowl just to make sure, can't really see on the bottom, but just make sure there's nothing stuck on the bottom with that honey. I turn my little pan up to medium. I'm going to go up to high and get it boiling. And you could boil the water in the microwave too. You don't have to do it on the stovetop. I have 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So far everything is the same color. And you'll notice this is a really thin batter to begin with. You'll see how, you saw how thin it is mixing it all together. And then once we add in boiling water, it is a really thin batter. So now for our flour, I'm just gonna go all in one. Just mix this till it's all combined. Scrape down your bowl again. And now our 1 cup of sour cream, also room temperature. And you could alternate between the flour and the sour cream. It works either way. And mix this around till it's really mixed together. And I just kind of look around on the bottom here. I'm not really super concerned if it has little bits not mixed in yet. Once we add in the boiling water, it will thin this out quite a bit and all get mixed in then anyways. So once you've got this all mixed together, we're going to add in our boiling water. And I just stir and pour very slowly. Try not to splash it everywhere. Make sure to get around the edges here. And once you've got that all mixed together, bring over your cake pans. I'm just going to eyeball even amounts into each pan. You could do this with a hand mixer, but as you saw, it was really fast and easy to come together with just a whisk. You could weigh these to make sure they are all the exact same, but this is fine. And they all look pretty even, close enough. So these will go into the oven for about 35 to 40 minutes. I'll check them at about 30 minutes and see what we've got. And while our cakes are in the oven, I'm gonna show you the first part of the frosting that we're gonna make. In this bowl, I have 8 ounces of dark chocolate chips and 8 ounces of milk chocolate chips. I have 1.5 cups of heavy cream. And we're gonna put that in our saucepan. Turn your heat on to medium high. And we wanna bring this up to just a simmer. And once your heavy cream gets all of these little bubbles here and around the edges, it's just about ready. Now we're just gonna pour this on top of our chocolate chips. Let the heat from the cream slowly melt everything. And if your chocolate chips are at room temperature, I don't know about you, I usually keep my chocolate chips in the fridge, but if your chocolate is at room temperature, it melts a little bit quicker. So just start stirring this all together till it's all mixed together. And you could use a whisk, but the spatula is fine. And it might look like it will never come together, but just stick with it. And once all of your chocolate is melted, we're going to set this aside, stir it periodically till it comes to room temperature. Once your chocolate is all melted and starting to cool down, I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap with the spatula in there. This plastic wrap will help it so it doesn't get a skin, but we still want it to come down to room temperature. So put that over there. I'm going to check on my cakes. Toothpick trick. Should check the other two. They look really good. And you can see how they're starting to pull away from the sides of the pan. Have to lean way over. So let these cool for about 10 minutes and then we'll turn them out onto my other cooling racks and then let them cool all of the way before we make the buttercream. So it's been about 10 minutes and my cakes are ready to come out of the pans. And they went for about 30 minutes in the oven. So here goes cake number 1. Oh, looks really good. There's my parchment paper. And I've mentioned before that I like these cooling racks to cool them on, but not to turn them out on. And I'm just gonna flip it over. Parchment. Oh, see, and this parchment paper stayed on the cake, which is fine. Just very carefully pull that right off of there. Okay, I'm gonna let these cool off, and my chocolate ganache essentially is what it is right now. It's cooling off, and once they're all cooled off and we finish making the buttercream, I'll show you how to frost it. So my cakes are all cooled off, and this is all cooled off. So now it's time to make our buttercream. And you can see it's still pretty thin. Just give it a good stir, and we're gonna pour it into the bowl of our stand mixer. And if you had put this in the fridge, it would have firmed up a little bit more. And with the whisk attachment, we're gonna mix this on low. And I have 3 sticks of butter that are really soft. You can see they're kind of sliding around. They're not melting, but very, very soft, room temperature. And I'm gonna turn this on low and just add in a little bit at a time as this is mixing. And I'm just going about a tablespoon at a time. And you could even turn the speed up to medium. Once all your butter is mixed in, turn up the speed a little bit higher. Scrape the bowl down. You can get all the little bits of chocolate and butter that aren't quite mixed in yet. Make sure there's nothing on the bottom. And mix on high until light and fluffy. And this is what you want it to look like. You can see how nice and smooth that is. And you can see on the whisk there's a little bit of butter that didn't quite make it, and that's fine. But get it all off of here. And give it one good stir. Or a couple. Looks pretty good. It actually looks a little bit soft for putting between our layers. I'm gonna wrap this up and stick it in the fridge, for maybe about a half hour, just to get it a little bit firmer. So my frosting has been chilling in the fridge for about a half hour. A little bit firmer, which is what we want. Same as last time, if you watched my carrot cake video. Little offset knife here, same plate. And if you didn't see that video, I used a plate that is mostly flat. And it does have a little bit of an edge here, but this is perfect for serving. And also you notice that my 3 cake pans were different sizes, of course in height. The biggest one is actually a little bit wider too, so this one goes on the bottom. And just for easy sake, this cake is really soft. And so put the biggest one on the bottom. Make sure it's centered. Give this a good stir because it's been in the fridge. And I'm just gonna eyeball a good dollop there. And you wanna go almost all the way to the edges, turning as you go. And I'm gonna do a little bit more. Just make sure it's kind of flat. Again, not all the way to the edges, but flat. You can see how nice that frosting is. Buttercream, not frosting. So get your next cake and center that. Kind of press down just a little bit, not a lot. That might be the same amount as we've got between the first layer, but we'll see. And spread this one out the same way, almost all the way to the edges. Turning as you go. And then take a step back. And I'm mostly looking to make sure my buttercream between my layers will be the same. And I actually think that looks pretty good. And I mentioned last time, it's up to you which side of the cake you want to face up. You could go for the flatter bottom part, but I kind of like the rounded top. And you notice they're not super domed. If you wanted to trim the edge, trim the top off, you could, but this is fine. And again, make sure it's centered. I'm not gonna do a crumb coat on this one. I'm just gonna start putting it on the sides and then put it on the top. And at the same time with this first layer, you want to fill in the cracks of where the frosting didn't meet all the way to the edges. And I might do a crumb coat. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just filling in cracks right now. And I'm just going around smoothing, seeing what I've got on all sides of my cake. If you notice that your cake layers are starting to shift around a little bit, you just get some skewers here. I know it looks terrible, but it will help stabilize your cake. And if you notice everything's getting a little bit melty, just stick everything in the fridge. But right now it's okay. And it might be kind of challenging to go around the skewers, but do your best. And I'm just doing a thin layer on the top to begin with. Go around the skewers, they'll get filled in with frosting. And I'm just going around getting any frosting that's kind of going off the side there. And I said I wasn't gonna do a crumb coat, but this one is. It's just a habit after making so many cakes. So take a step back, make sure nothing is leaning, and it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna stick the whole thing in the fridge and the frosting, and I'll show you when we do the final coat of the buttercream. Once you've had your cake and your frosting buttercream in the fridge for a little bit, it's ready to put on the final layer, and it's a lot sturdier now. And this frosting hardens up really nice in the fridge. And this layer will be a little bit thicker, so we're just gonna start going on the sides again. Very careful with your skewers. And go all the way to the bottom. And just try to get even thickness all the way around. We'll swirl it around a little bit after we get it all on. And you can see when I was telling you how my bottom layer was a little bit bigger than the other two, you can really see that now. And take a step back. See what you've got going on all sides. And if you wanted to, you could put little pieces of parchment underneath to not mess up your cake plate, but it's okay. And once it's firmed up enough, very carefully remove your skewers and just start spreading on the top here. And then we'll probably add a little bit more to the sides and the top till the frosting is all used up. And I'm not worried that it's perfectly flat. Mostly just want it to be an even layer of buttercream. And I'm just kind of going on the edges here. Make sure the sides and the top meet each other. It is leaning a little bit, and that's fine. And I'm just gonna start adding more to the sides and just kind of swirling as you go. And I'm not really going for any kind of design, just kind of swirling, making sure no cake is peeking through, and making sure that it's all even around everywhere. Keep stepping back, looking at it, make sure you're happy with it. We'll go a little bit more on top, and then I think it's about done. Make sure you're happy with all sides of it. Don't be too picky. Okay, that looks really good. Let's cut into it. It looks really good.
It does look really good.
Oh my gosh, it smells amazing.
Yeah, I wonder how it tastes.
Wow.
It tastes really good.
I'll just take this. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome, thank you. This is my brother Trent and Allie, as some of you know. And they're here eating this cake at their house.
And if you guys are here watching from our channel, you probably aren't going to recognize this because some of this stuff isn't done in our videos, but it's going to be done in Jill's videos. But we really wanted to showcase this delicious chocolate cake, so.
Very nice, Jill.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me come to your house and bring a cake.
Thanks for bringing a cake.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.